Very well. Welcome to another edition of From the Diaspora, and thanks for joining us on this edition of the program. We're coming to you live from Sheffield in the United Kingdom. So, what's on the table today? The two major political parties, I'm talking about the NDC and the NPP, that's the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party, have now launched their manifestos with just about 3 months to the 2020 general election. So, of course, these are very voluminous documents. And so, for the purpose of this discussion, we will only be, okay, I do have an echo here. I'll just need to close this here. Apologies for that. And so, yeah, as I was saying, for the purpose of this discussion, we'll be focusing on some of the key highlights, key themes. We've been able to look at education. Of course, since 2008, education has been a major highlight of Ghana's general elections, and also infrastructure development. And we also look at youth-targeted policies and also job creation. My name is Kwakye Afreh-Nuamah, and joining me on the show today, Conrad Dumbah is chairman of the NDC branch in Milton, Keynes. Also, Kwaku Owusu is a communications team member of the Luton chapter of the NPP here in the United Kingdom. And John Tanden, just joining us, is also, all right, so John will join us later on. John is a doctoral candidate at the School of Economics, Political and Policy Sciences at the University of Texas at Dallas. And grateful for your time here, gentlemen. Conrad, I think you may need to unmute your microphone.
It's not.
All right.
Thank you.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
All right. Fantastic. All right, let's move straight to the discussion, and we start off with education, and on the portion that has to do with secondary education. Let me read what is highlighted in the NDC's manifesto, and of course, because the NPP is already in power, we're looking at what the alternative opposition party is offering in terms of other ideas, and we place that side by side with what the NPP may be doing, or is already doing, or intends doing after if it indeed wins this election. So on secondary education, the NDC manifesto says in parts that the party intends to make the free senior high school program better by ensuring that its numerous challenges are addressed and high standards introduced. It also talks about the fact that it will expand the free SHS program to cover students in private senior high schools in undeserved and deprived areas. And another key point, which has also become a matter of controversy, is that the NDC says that it intends to abolish the double track system. Now, I'll start with you, Conrad. What do you mean by high standards when it comes to the free SHS, introducing higher standards insofar as that policy is concerned?
So thank you very much, Afreh, and good evening, UK time, and afternoon to those times behind us, everyone listening and watching. So yes, thanks for introducing this by going into the People's Manifesto and highlighting what we said we were going to do. When we say a better standard, what we mean is what is currently happening in Ghana now. The level or the quality of SHS in Ghana now cannot be the standard that Ghanaians will be saddled with for the rest of their lives. Absolutely not. At independence, we never had this level of standard. First Republic, Second Republic, Third Republic, in the Fourth Republic, all the other administrations prior to this current government, no one dipped the quality of education this low. And when I say that, what do I mean? When you have an SHS system that is run like a traffic light, where it comes red today, you stop, stay home. Green tomorrow, you come in. What you are doing is people are getting less face time with teachers. They're getting less face time and opportunities to learn. Now, those of us who went to Ghana in school in Ghana, we had 3 solid years of SS, those of us who went to SS. And it meant 3 years, where each year was 365 days. Now, it is 3 years, but each year is half a year. And so when you saw all these exam malpractices, attempts to leak papers and all that stuff, it was an admission that the quality was not there. And therefore, you need to get it back. And that is what we mean. Now, the whole concept of free HSL, I'm not sure if I should go into that now. Everybody in Ghana agrees that education is a priority. That's why it's enshrined in Article 25 of our Constitution, right? And all parties, and let me be very clear here. The very, very first president in the history of Ghana that introduced free education was Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, or Sergeant for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. It was free education and was free in all the sense from cradle to university, from kindergarten to university. After his overthrow in 1966 and the subsequent Busia government that came, they scrapped it and then introduced various schemes here and there, if you like, loans for university students, secondary school no longer being free, and so on and so forth. In the fourth Republican dispensation, the first political party to bring up the concept of free education was the CPP. If you check the CPP in their 2008 manifesto, when Kwaku Owusu was their flag bearer, he talked about free education from nursery all the way to secondary school. Then the PPP, again, when Dr. Ndum was flag bearer, the next in 2012, talked about free education. The NDC, page 25 of the NDC 2012 manifesto, also talked about free education. But we're going to do it in a methodical manner, in a progressive manner, so that what we have now will not have occurred. We were going to make sure that when we make it free for all and everybody came in, there was a desk for each student. We didn't have to then swap in, out, on, off, red, green, and all that stuff. Our 2016 manifesto, again, page 15, also said we're going to do it. And then now, our 2020 manifesto says we're going to carry on with where it is. We're going to cure the ills that are bedeviling free HHS and making it free in all but substance. We are going to make sure that there's sufficient classrooms so everyone can have full year education. We're going to empower the students. We're going to empower teachers to make sure knowledge is passed on. So that is what we mean when we say we are going to lift it to the standard befitting of Ghanaians. Because what we have now, it is not what Ghanaians deserve.
The founder of Ashesi, though, seems to disagree with this position, and specifically with your criticism about the double track system. I'm sure you've seen that video. He feels this is certainly a very brilliant idea.
I respectfully would disagree with him. In fact, I'm sure Ashesi University doesn't run a track system. It doesn't run a double track. They have semesters, 2 semesters. You don't have the university split into 2. One batch comes in for one half of the year, another batch comes in for the other half of the year. If it is so good at SHS level, why is it not good at Ashesi University level? And bear in mind, at the university level, you can actually do online courses, distance learning. You don't need to be there, right? But at the secondary school, you need a lot more guided teaching. And that is the time they need a lot of face time. You're telling me somebody who just come from JSS into SS1, never heard of economics in his life, he's going to study the same economics textbook, but this time around it's going to be half of the year. And I certainly disagree with that. And even in the US.
So I'll make those your initial comments. I'll come back to that to you. We'll interrogate further. But Kwaku, before this policy was rolled out, there were many who indeed suggested, including your own party stalwart, former defense minister and current board chairman of SNIT, Dr. Adukufo, who indicated that this policy or program should perhaps have been rolled out on a certain pilot basis. In fact, this is an assertion that the finance minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, some months ago, associated himself with, saying that it should have been targeted. The NDC's criticism, so far as the free SHS policy is concerned, is that it's not as if it is a bad policy, but how it has been implemented has been rather chaotic. That is what the opposition party says it seeks to cure, and the basis on which Ghanaians should vote for them.
Well, I'd come in and say that the main aim of this SHS policy was to give two things to Ghanaians who hitherto weren't getting access to free education. Number one, access, and number two, quality education. Now, hitherto, President Mahama has said that this policy could not be implemented. Now, the Nadu Dankwa Akufo-Addo government, with the will and the desire, implemented the policy. So I do not know why our friends in the opposition are backtracking or they are endorsing the policy in itself. Now, they said the policy couldn't be implemented. Now they are saying they wanted it to be run, or they want it to be run better. Now, our argument is that somebody who started the policy, who has moved the policy that far, should you not give him the time to implement it better? If you are saying that the policy is not working, or the policy shouldn't have even been introduced in the first place. They are talking about its implementation. My learned friend just mentioned that it's just run like a traffic light system. In fact, the Honorable Dr. Yawose Edichum, who is the Deputy Minister of Education, who is a learned fellow in education, mentioned that this is something that the John Mahama government, in fact, wanted to do, but they couldn't do. Now, what are they doing?
The NDC says it's actually started this. It started it on a progressively free basis. But then that it allowed time to build and develop the infrastructure, which is what you didn't do.
Well, what we are focusing now is building of infrastructure. We are building schools to accommodate most of the students who hitherto were going on this double track system. Now, the double track system has been tried over this period and it's worked. I do not understand what our learned or our people in the opposition want us to do currently. Most of the private schools who are getting the students are not able to get access to free SHS. Why? Because most of them do not do well in the BECE. Now, what parents are doing is to pay money for them to go to these government schools. Now, what we are doing now is better equipping the government schools, training teachers, helping these teachers to meet the needs of students so that children who were hitherto going to private schools will go to government schools and will be better equipped to pass the exams. So the argument about its implementation being poor is neither here or there, because our argument has always been that they didn't want it to be implemented. They wanted it to be implemented. If at all they wanted it to be implemented, they wanted it in a phased stage or a staggered stage. We've implemented it. We are ongoing. And what new thing are they going to offer? Ghanaians should give us 4 more years to continue with the implementation of the free HSS and get it done.
And that point right there, Kwaku made, Conrad, is a question that many have put to the NDC, that this is a policy that while in government, you criticize. In fact, right from 2008, the NDC did criticize that. Let me make reference to a Ghana web story of November 29, 2012, and it's titled Nana Addo's Free SHS Policy is Sakawa, and this is attributed to John Dramani Mahama. And let me quote him here. He says, because he wants power, he's preaching free education, but I say it is Sakawa and shouldn't be trusted. This was certainly a damning verdict of a policy you now seek to improve, Conrad.
So thank you very much for that. And I think what John Mahama said has come to pass, as you find with many things that this government has done. What he said is the policy of the NPP at the time, that you have free HSS big bang, was going to lead to Ghanaians being told one thing and another being done. Now, do you honestly believe that if Ghanaians had been told that free education meant that your child will sit home for 6 months in the year and go to school for the other 6 months, that they would have bought into that? You know, the reality of the situation is that what President Mahama warned about is exactly what is coming to pass now, where the education is now, free HHS is now hollow to the extent that face time with teachers is halved. As we speak now, a lot of students are not going back to school till next year. You know, and let's come to it. Our approach, we did not say free HSS is bad. We said we will implement it progressively, not big bang, right? And I would prove to you, I prove to Kwaku that Nanado himself has credited the NDC with starting free HHS. If you go to CTFM online on the 6th of March 2014, Independence Day 2014, Nanado is on record reported to have said Mahama's free SHS is good for Ghanaians. Google that up and read it. Free SHS was introduced in the 2015-2016 academic year. We did it progressively. We built as part of making sure that when you do it, everybody has the same quality of education. We started building the community day schools, the so-called E-blocks. The whole idea was build as many of them, and all day schools, community day schools, was effectively free SHS, and we're rolling it gradually to boarding schools, making sure that you expand access. Because Kwaku rightly said, it's about access and quality. We decided to make sure we expanded access so that everybody comes in, right? And then you can carry on improving quality. What we have now, you don't have sufficient access. You have access for 50% of the year, and there's no quality at all. Again, you have quality for barely 50% of the year. Now, the current Education Minister also confirmed that the NDC actually introduced free HHS. On the 12th of August, Ghana Web again, Dr. Opoku Prempeh confirmed that the NPP government is clearing 30 million cedis worth of debt inherited from the NDC's implementation of free SHS. If the NDC hadn't implemented free SHS, where did that 30 million debt come from? Was it from the ghost? And if the NDC hadn't implemented it, why was Nanado praising Mahama? And by the way, you can Google it up. UNESCO praised Mahama for introducing free SHS as far back as 2015, about a year after Nanado had done it. So all in all, we did what we had to do.
What form did your free SHS take?
Good. The form it took was, we built a lot of E-blocks to begin with and made sure we had sufficient access for people to come in. And day schools started as free, and we were progressively moving to the boarding ones. That is what we were doing. So tuition, for example, was free. Nobody was paying for tuition. What you have now is the boarding fees, particularly for schools that are in boarding. That is where this government is struggling. And you will see that the only reason why you have stay home, come back is because it's a boarding thing. It's about access. That is the problem. So we are not disagreed. Now, what we are saying is the damage has been done.
So clearly, free SHS in the way you implemented it, as you indicated, was quite different from what we are seeing today.
That's right.
Good. And you can see the
many people to access secondary education, many people who would otherwise not have been in the position to afford. Is that something you admit to?
Yeah,
absolutely. See, and that is the reality here. What we have done is we've taken the cake and we split it into two, and we've said we've given you more cake. You have 10 people to one piece of cake. We decided to split it into two, and now you say half here, half there. The reality is, what we have decided to do is what you call beggar thy neighbor policy. Take the existing one, split it into two, you take 50, you also take 50. The question was, were there alternative educational routes? For example, TVET, technical education, it was always available, which is not part of free HSS anywhere, and we want to add it into it. If you couldn't get access into secondary school, you could get access into some of those others. Of course, admission has gone up, and that is good. But you see, anything you do, it has to start from somewhere. It has to start, and we wanted a well thought out policy, not an ad hoc policy. I mean, when Nanado was in the UK, they asked him how much will it cost. He couldn't tell you. Ndum could tell us how much it will cost. Nanado, in fact, they came into government, and then they started working out how much it will cost. And that is why Ken Oforiatta actually admitted. In fact, at some point, they were thinking of what? You know what? If you can pay, pay. So that is what we are saying is do not implement life-changing policies like education in a haphazard and ad hoc way.
All right.
It has to be actually life impactful.
Quickly, you want to say something?
Yes. My good friend just mentioned that anything you do, you have to start from somewhere. Our government has shown the willpower to start from somewhere. We are progressively improving the free SHS system, and we gave timelines, right? Now, the candidate Mahama mentioned that it was a Sakawa project and nobody should trust Nanado. But then, unfortunately, it isn't a Sakawa. We have implemented it. It's rolling. We are confident that we'll meet our timelines. Yes, the NDC has rolled out its manifesto. They've never given Ghanaians timelines on when to implement or to push forward these strategies that they've mentioned in their manifesto regarding free SHS. Also, we want to know what features of the free SHS are they going to change? Are they going to improve? Because we've improved enough. Now we've gotten the numbers.
You talked about infrastructure, for example.
Infrastructure, yes. Government is putting up infrastructure. We're building properties. We are expanding schools. What the government has decided to do now is to expand schools like Prempeh, Adisadel, Infanspim, Wesley.
Double track.
What?
They will abolish double track.
Yes. Now we've given timelines on when to abolish double track. We've mentioned that the Honorable Member of Parliament for Bosomtwe, Dr. Educhu, mentioned that that is going to be in an area of 5 years, right? This will be abolished. Now, NDC hasn't given us any timelines. They haven't given us how they are going to implement it in their manifesto at all. We've rolled the program out. So when are they coming in to implement what they are talking about? And should NDC be trusted even? What we feel is that they are soliciting for votes and therefore they are telling Ghanaians they will do better. What is there better to do?
Yeah, I can answer that very quickly if you want.
Let's come to
let me finish.
Very important.
Yeah.
Timelines. And let me reference what you say in your manifesto again. When it comes to, for example, the double track, you said, and abolish the double track system. Okay. And you also talk about expand the free SHS program to cover students in private senior high schools in undeserved and deprived areas. I've heard some of your party's communicators in the past week, Conrad, talk about this. What has been missing indeed has been the timeline. So, for example, when you talk about abolishing the double track, this is something the incumbent government, the NPP government, says it is already doing.
Yeah,
how soon will you do this, assuming your party is
because
elected?
there are no timelines.
No, absolutely. I think, look, let's be fair here. In terms of, if the question started from Kwaku asked you, do you have the credibility? In 2008, when Kufuor introduced four-year for SHS, he made no provision whatsoever for the 4th year. We promised we'll fix it as soon as we came into power. We mobilized the fastest ever educational infrastructure building projects and made sure that they were taken care of ASAP. We did it. So we have the track record of having done that, and we did it. You say you are working on it, and I'll come to what we are talking about. We have to understand that manifestos are policy documents. I don't expect to open the NDC MPP manifesto and see down to the last penny that says Kojo Nkrumah Enterprises will construct the road from Medina to Adenta on this date. No, it is a policy statement on what you are going to do.
But you write that policy statement for the purpose of enabling the electorate make a certain informed decision.
Absolutely.
Now the question many people would want to know to enable them make that decision is that one, when you talk about, for example, abolishing the double track system, when do you intend doing this? An NDC government, if it wins the election, will be sworn into power on January 7, 2021. When will you abolish the double track system?
So if I use the track record what we've had before, within a year we're able to solve a similar problem. So I'm very confident that my party, when in power, will solve this within the space of a year by mobilizing infrastructure very quickly to make sure that is done. But let us come to the MPP says they will do this in 5 years. Please ask my brother Kwaku to point out in their manifesto
where they have said that they are going to build the 350 schools that would have resolved this problem. And I explain why it would have resolved the problem. They promised 350 free SHSs in 2016. If those schools had been built, and assuming they had been built like the E-blocks, where each E-block has about 24 classrooms, right? I'm ignoring the libraries and the other stuff. 24 classrooms. Now in Ghana, the average size of an SHS class is between 50 to 80, right? Average class size. If you take that average class size and you assume that you have an E-block of 24 and multiply, let's even say the higher end of 80, or let me use the lower end of 65. If I use the lower end or average of 65, that's between 50 and 80, 65 kids in a class. Then you have an E-block that can take 24. Multiply 65 by 24, you get 1,560 that can go into that E-block. Now, how many have we currently got in free SHS? We have got roughly 1.1. Let's round it up to 1.2 million students in secondary school at this point in time. Because we're doing double track, it means 600 will be home at one point, another 600 not there. How do we cater for this 600? If you take that 1,560 I talked about, and you take the 600,000 that we need to accommodate for and divide that by 1,560, it means we need about 380 brand new E-blocks to be able to fix that. Now, at the moment, we started 123. If that 123 is done, that goes a long way. Of course, they are doing some expansion, so I'm even excluding the expansions from this. But if the NPP had built 350 of their free SHSs, this problem of double track would have been solved. In fact, if you take the upper end of 80 in a class, we would have needed only 312 E-blocks to fix the double track. Why have they not done it? Let me tell you why. They managed to get $1.5 billion from Get Fund collateralization. An average E-block cost about 6.5 million cedis. That's about $1.2 million. If an average E-block that will accommodate about 15,000 students cost $1.2 million, multiply 350 by 1.2 million. It means the NPP needed only $420 million to fix this double track system if they had built all those schools. $1.5 million 2 years later, they took this in 2018. Not a single SHS has been built. Ask my brother. Yes, they've completed right. 20 what we left behind.
Okay,
so
I guess your point is made, Conrad.
Deliberately cost.
Let me say that John Taden just joined us. John, okay, great. Can you hear me? Hello, John. Can you hear me, John? All right, it seems John is not. All right, I'll allow John to fix his microphone. But yeah, Conrad, conclude with your point and let me get back.
So the point I'm telling you is that based on the mathematics I've just done now, we don't need more than what? If you take the upper end 312, lower end of an average 65 people in a class, about 380 E-blocks, 24 classroom type E-blocks, and the problem will be solved. The NPP can do it. They have wiped out $1.5 billion. They only needed $420 million to fix this problem. Ask my brother Kwaku, why didn't they do that? All you're doing, you are building a toilet and a water tank with a 3-unit classroom block. We were building E-blocks, 24-unit E-blocks that will contain 1,500. If you build a 3-unit classroom block, 65 times 3.
You say this will take you. It will take you 1 year to abolish the double track system.
What I'm saying is this. We can fix it in a year. We have done it.
It will take you 1 year.
It's not. Yes. It's not.
You said it will take you 1 year.
I said based on our track record, right?
Conrad,
yes.
Conrad, let's be clear here. Those are two different statements.
Yeah.
Yes.
You can do it, and you will do it. Are you saying? And that portion was absent in your manifesto. That's what I saw. Why I saw clarity.
Yeah.
That in terms of abolishing the double track. How long will it take the NDC? We don't know as we speak how long it will take you. Do you know? That's
what we know is that we have done it before within 12 months and we can do it again.
It's not about what you've done before, it's about what you will do. What will you do? How long will it take you?
Now, the question I ask you is, at the moment, look, I've done the maths. If we need 300, already we have 123 that are almost done. take out of it, we need another 170. If we start building them in 12 months, we can get it done. Yeah, if we start building in 12 months, we can get it done, and we are determined to do it.
So what answer are you able to give me based on your mathematics? How long will it take the NDC to abolish the double track?
Within an academic year, look, if we come in January, right? We come in January 2021. You are looking at the next academic year will start in what? September 2022, right? We should be able to fix it, and we are determined to fix it in that time frame.
Okay, now, let me come to the second. Let me come to the second aspect of this, which is not so clear. I'll come back to Kwaku. John just joined us, and let me just say that for those who just joined the conversation, Conrad Dumbah is the chairman of the NDC branch in Milton, Keynes, and also Kwaku Owusu is a communications team member of the NPP here in the UK, the Luton chapter. John Tanden. John, are you there? All right. It appears your connection is not so strong this time around. John is a doctoral candidate at the School of Economics, Political and Policy Sciences at the University of Texas in the United States of America. Conrad, let me conclude with you on this. As I did indicate, we'll look at also job creation, the very topical issue of Okada, what this government has said about it in times past, in recent times, and also what we are hearing from the transport ministry. And we look at also infrastructural development. Now, you also talk about the fact that you expand the free SHS program to cover private senior high schools in underserved and deprived areas. Where are these particular underserved and deprived areas? Do you have an idea of the number of private schools we're talking about? I know that the Association of Private Schools had complained, particularly last year, that governments had not included them in the free senior high school program, and their schools were collapsing because the public schools were essentially taking up all the numbers because it was free. Where are these schools? Where are these underserved schools, deprived schools you talk about?
Well, these schools are in Ghana, if that helps. They are spread across the length and breadth of Ghana. And like you said, if you have a community where there is the need, and it's all about access again, if there is an existing private school that has got capacity to take students that are not being able to get in, it is easier for government to extend free HHS to those schools in the deprived areas where there is a need than to seek to go and if you like, build from the scratch. And when you look at all these things, let's say we decide we want to build 100 free SHS buildings, and we find out that of the 100, there are already 50 private schools in deprived areas that can absorb these very quickly. That is part of the solution there. We'll immediately allow those private schools to absorb them to reduce the number of double track. So if the current private school capacity now can reduce double track by 1,000 students, we will do that. And I'm more than comfortable that it can actually do it in tens of thousands. So there's a need for that, because what you don't want is you are in a deprived community, because of access, there is no school for the person, they can't benefit from free HHS, or they can't, come to think of it, what is happening now is, I can be in Koforidua and my child has got a school in Accra. I'll have to rent a place for them there if I cannot get them commuting every day, right? But if there's a private school in there that can also do free HHS, I don't need to get my child to Accra, rent a place for them. That's what we call the hidden cost that this government is not talking about. When we did our implementation, there were no hidden costs. But with these ones, you have students being treated like they are university undergrads hiring places. And that is part of what we are trying to do. One thing we should add is the fact that we're also adding the TVET. It will be free TVET, not just at SHS.
Hold on for me. We'll come to that. Quick response from you, Kwaku, and then I go to John.
Gone are the days when schools like Achimota, Adisadel, Prempeh were top schools where people would pride themselves of going to. Now, because of free SHS, students or people who live in deprived areas like Conrad is talking about are able to enter these schools. and have quality education. Not too long ago, a student from Chira went to Achimota School and come and see the jubilation of the whole village. And this is one of the policies which the Akufo-Addo government has implemented to the benefit of people who live in deprived communities. And therefore, we are saying the free SHS policy, which was implemented by this government, has come to stay. Give us 4 more years to implement it better, right? We are progressively implementing or rolling it out. It's getting better by the day. We have mentioned, my good friend Conrad mentioned that they are going to implement it better. They are going to put in better strategies. But then what we are doing now is strategic planning and construction of facilities. Now, that's what they say they will do further. Why not give us 4 more years to continue what we are doing already? That is still our argument. We implement, they said, well, candidate Mahama mentioned that it's a Sakawa scheme. Ghanaians should not trust this government. We implemented it. So we've come to find out that it's not Sakawa. It's something that is real. It can be implemented. Now, we've rolled it out. It has started. With every institution or every program that is rolled out, there are teething problems. We must all admit. But then we are addressing these issues as they come up, and the government has been successful.
So these problems, fine. There'll be problems with every policy that is rolled out fresh. Is it also your point that the problems we are seeing today relative to the free senior high school were inevitable?
Well, with every, like I mentioned initially, with every program that's rolled out, there would be teething problems, right? But then as you go along, you solve them operationally.
So the government already anticipated these challenges?
The government knew that there were going to be problems, but then we implemented these problems as they go on. Now, what we've done is we are building facilities, right?
So and if the government knew that these challenges could come up, then the advice of the likes of Dr. Addo would have been the right approach to tackle this policy or to roll it out on a pilot basis.
Now, that what we would want to draw out is, number one, the desire to roll out a policy, which the NDC is talking about now. They didn't roll it out. My good friend Conrad said they started it on a phased basis. It wasn't rolled out on a phased basis in actual fact. We started the whole program. We've started it, we've rolled out, despite the challenges we are facing.
And it is the challenges we are talking about that the NDC's argument is that these challenges compromise quality. Access is as important as quality. So you provide access, yes, many people are able to, get into senior high schools now because it is free, but then quality is being compromised. And you say these challenges were governments foresaw these challenges. And my question then earlier was that wouldn't it have been more prudent to have rolled it out on a pilot basis?
Well, our promise to the good people of Ghana was to roll out the policy. And therefore, with goodwill, the Akufo-Addo government thought it was best to roll out the policy at that time. We rolled it out, and it's been successful, despite the challenges we are facing. With good governance, we are bound to face challenges. But then it's how to face these challenges that is important.
All right, okay, just round up on that for me.
Yeah, and therefore, like I mentioned earlier, going back to my initial point, candidate Mahama mentioned that this could not be rolled out. Why this quick turnaround? That they're going to roll it out and they'll make it better.
Okay.
My question to NDC is how better? What timelines? The information is vague. They should provide Ghanaians with better information so that we can interrogate their manifesto better and have an informed decision moving forward.
All right. And so, John, you've had them. You sit in the middle. You've had the MPP and also the NDC. I know you joined this conversation later on, but I'm also sure you've been monitoring. Now, on the matter of free senior high school education, the NDC has said that it's going to improve what it considers to be a shambolic rollout of the policy by the NPP since it came into office. This has been enforced for the last 3 years or so. Looking at what the NDC is promising, abolishing the double track, expanding free SHS to cover private senior high schools, and what they talk about making the free SHS, of a much higher standard. Place that side by side with what we are already seeing and what the NPP intends doing. What are your thoughts?
Thank you so much for having me. Can you guys hear me, by the way, because at the beginning?
Yeah, it's better now.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for having me, and my apologies for...
if you can speak up, I'll be grateful, yeah.
Okay, let me draw closer to this camera. So, I haven't really heard what the other two gentlemen have said so far, and so I can't really respond directly to them, but looking at the two manifestos and the promises that the two governments are laying out concerning the free senior high school policy, what I see going on with respect to the NDC's promises is they are rolling out assurances that are actually in the form of promises, but assurances of continuity of policy, so that people will not be scared that should the NDC government come to power, some of the sentiments or comments that they've made in the past might actually begin to take center stage, where there were some people that said free senior high school wouldn't work in the NDC government, not necessarily John Mahama. And so people might be afraid that they might abandon the policy and go after something else. And so what I see the NDC doing in this circumstance is they are laying out promises in the form of making it look like these things are new, which they aren't. The NPP is basically promising the same thing, but the NDC is trying to make sure that the public understands that there's going to be continuity in policy of this thing that has come to stay, and there's going to be sort of a betterment to say. But frankly, when you look at what the NPP intends to do, continuing with this free senior high school policy and what the NDC is promising, there's not a significant difference. And it's basically an assurance to the Ghanaian public that this has come to stay from both political parties.
And so what do you make of the expansion of the policy to include persons in underserved and deprived areas? I'm talking about private senior high schools.
So for me, I think though that we can start to offer free senior high school policy or opportunities to people in private schools, but we need to continue in a manner that will not disturb the capital and the sort of the framework that makes private institutions and educational institutions more productive, more efficient, and work better than government organizations and government entities. And so for me, I think what John Mahama is trying to capitalize on here is the fact that when you look at when the senior high school policy was being implemented, or after its implementation, there were concerns that some parents were taking their kids out of the public schools and putting them in private schools because they were afraid that the quality of education from the public school system was going to drop or decline. And so the fact that that happened, or some of those things actually took place, and that the fact that John Mahama is promising to extend the policy to cover private institutions is an implication, or sort of an indication, that he is trying to capitalize on the emotions and the concerns of those parents who are taking their kids into private schools and telling them, hey, even though you are worried about the quality of education in the public institutions, and it's because of the free senior high school policy, and you're taking your kids to private schools, we're going to make sure that you don't miss out on the freeness of the situation. That is the freeness of you not paying fees, and that's what he's trying to capitalize on. It's just another constituency that he's going after.
All right, sure. So let's round up on the education conversation. Now, the NDC is promising free TVET. The NPP says this is something we already doing. In fact, it's captured in the NPP manifesto as well as part of what it's doing at the secondary level. Conrad.
Well, I think that can only be because the NPP has probably read your manifesto, not read our manifesto. What we said is we are going to include free TVET within the free education sphere. So secondary TVET institutions will come under free education umbrella.
Yes, that's what the NPP has captured. They said
doing. Let me land, please.
Definitely.
And it includes tertiary TVET. If you want, you can go to our relevant page in terms of go to our manifesto, right? And go to the bit on education. You will see on 7.24, this is page 72 on the document. It says, we will provide free technical and vocational education at the secondary and tertiary levels. That's point A. Now, the NPP manifesto doesn't talk about doing it at tertiary level. So how can the two be the same? In any case, the NPP says they are doing it. That is not true. I'll tell you why. As of December last year, the current Deputy Minister for Education, I don't remember what her name exactly is now, but I can get it for you. She said that the pre-tertiary education bill, when passed, will allow them to start free TVET this September. Fast forward 1 month later.
What, the Deputy Education Minister?
Yes.
Are you talking about the former? Are you talking about Barbara Shaisi?
No. I can get you the exact one.
I make the point.
Yes. I can get you the exact name now if you want. I'm actually
Go ahead. I want us to round up on the education.
Yeah, Gifty Kim Ampofo. That's her name, Mrs. Gifty Kim Ampofo. Yeah. In December, she said TVET will start September 2020. In January, 30th January, there's an article in my Ghana Web. This time around, she says it will start September 2021. Now, how can you tell me that something you want to start in September 2021 is already happening? What is happening here is, it's almost like the Okada syndrome. When NDC says we will legalize Okada, the NPP who are criticizing suddenly say we are about to do it. When we say we will scrap licensing exam for teachers, they say we are in consultation, we are about to do it. It is not true. TVET is currently not under free education because it is not part of the Ministry of Education. It's under the Employment and Labor Ministry. And that is what the pre-tertiary education bill was seeking to correct by bringing it under that. But it is currently not happening. And we have promised it will happen. And we will not only make, look, if you are studying graphic design at a technical or vocational institute now, we'll make it free at secondary school level. And if you then move on to the technical university to continue with your graphic design, we'll make it free again. That is what we are saying. Okay. And that cannot be the same as what the NPP has said.
Okay,
or not doing.
Kwaku, you want to respond to that?
Yes, it looks like the NDC are panicking about every policy we tend to roll out. And therefore, they come up with some sort of a refined, or I wouldn't call it refined, but something to paint Ghanaians that they're going to do better. Honorable Minister mentioned that free education, or TVET, is being rolled out. Now, the argument by Conrad is that we are not doing it. Have you checked? Do you have better particulars to tell us that it's not being implemented?
Can you tell us it's happening?
In any case, you didn't implement it in the first place. We've mentioned it, and you've come back. You didn't even bring up your manifesto. You kept pushing it. When we brought our manifesto, you brought your manifesto later to counter what we said in our manifesto.
You said that was deliberate.
So I'm not saying it's deliberate, but in any case, anybody will see through these and start saying, did they plagiarize and add a few words to change what we are saying? So the Nana Akufo-Addo government is doing very well when it comes to education. NDC has failed abysmally in the years that they ruled Ghana in the education sector. We mentioned that we were going to introduce free education, which has become one of our flagship programs, and we have. Ghanaians, the good people of Ghana, will give us another 4 years to implement it further.
Okay, very well. Let's move to the next theme here, and it's about job creation and youth-centered policies. And an interesting point that both of you made, particularly Conrad, suggesting that the NPP may be, drawing into some of your policies and perhaps politically sabotaging you, trying to implement same. And Kwaku also suggesting that the NDC may have taken some of the ideas and all that. John, I'll pick your thoughts on that, whether you think that is what is happening, because we're going to talk about the Okada matter now. And this is something that seems to have generated a lot of interest as to whether or not it should be done, whether or not it's a principled political position. And we know that when the NDC was in power under John Dramani Mahama, the Okada and the activities of Okada riders was made illegal.
In fact, in 2012.
You understand? And so on the basis of what the party's principled position is, the question that the NPP is asking is that if you have this track record of doing this while you were in power, why should you be trusted to legalize it when you are given another opportunity? Conrad.
Right, okay, thank you. I think when it comes to the manifesto, the reason our manifesto is called the People's Manifesto is because it was bottom up. When President Mahama started his Speak Out tour, the NPP said, oh, he has no ideas. He's just going around and just asking anyone to tell him what he wants to do. Little did they know that what he was doing was complying with the Constitution. Right? Democracy is of the people and by the people. We went around to all the trees. We had meetings under trees, not schools under trees, because we managed to eradicate over 1,700 of them. We met people in various communities and we asked them, what is your pain point? What do you want us to do? And our manifesto is a reflection, 100% of that, unrefined. What we have not done is to seek to go and copy anybody. And that is a fact, right? The NPP knows this very well. None of the ideas we have there is copied from the NPP. They are original bottom up. But if you come to, the matter of Okada, it's clear. Look, in 2012, the country woke up and found that suddenly young men and women, if I may dare say, were using motorbikes to ferry passengers around for money. The problem was not that. The problem was that suddenly it ballooned and it was causing chaos in the traffic system. Our country people were dying. So what do you do? Look, when you have a wound at the spot, there are ways by which you can provide emergency care to manage it, and then you find a more permanent solution. Throughout our interaction with various people, a lot of Ghanaians said, look, we use Okada because there are no taxis going to our place. It is cheaper, it is more convenient. And Okada people also said, look, we can make this better. If the problem is that an Okada rider hits somebody, you can't trace them. If we are regulated, we are happy for you to legalize it if it is regulated, just like trucks, taxis, and all that stuff. As a listening government, we don't pretend to be the know-it-all. We'll tell you what you need and give it to you. We take it bottom up. And that is why the listening John Dramani Mahama, His Excellency, decided that we will listen to the people and we will do it. Now, you will notice that when we were doing that, Kwaku's team were calling our manifesto Okada Manifesto. In fact, there is a very famous tweet from Nanado saying that it is not necessary, don't do it, and it will never happen. We went ahead anyway because we believe it's the will of the people. The first 24 hours, they called it Okada Manifesto. Then they found it was not working. The next 24 hours, they suddenly turned around and said, oh, we were going to do it anyway. Oh, we are going to pass a law in October to legalize it. There is nothing worse than this kind of copying. Ask my brother Kwaku, if you were going to do it, why did you call ours Okada Manifesto?
Okay, very well, Conrad. So, Kwaku, John Dramani Mahama's promise of legalizing and regulating the activities of the Okada business is nothing but a desperate and populist vote canvassing gimmick. The activities of the Okada business is illegal in our law books and must remain so. The nuisance they cause on our roads must not be legalized by any right-thinking Ghanaian. This was a 5th September tweet by President Akufo-Addo at 52 minutes past 5 p.m. The government's position on this seems to have changed. The president was clear. He says that the nuisance they cause on our roads must not be legalized by any right-thinking Ghanaian. Today, the transport minister tells us that already government has been in consultation with stakeholders to look at the possibility of legalizing the activities of Okada riders. How do we draw the balance between this clear contradiction?
Well, to go back to what Conrad said a few minutes ago, that if there's an emergency problem, right, we should take urgent care to solve the problem. And therefore, I'm not quoting him verbatim anyway, but to counter what he said, now the law which made Okada operations illegal, which is the Road Traffic Regulation 2012 LI 2180, was passed in 2012 by the then NDC administration under His Excellency ex-President Mahama. Now, the Kufuor government, upon assumption of office, sought to assess and implement the road traffic regulation, and in a process needed to consult stakeholders, industry players, and interest groups on the provision of the law. And therefore, between March and November 2019, we held consultations with various groups or organizations and local authorities. The second phase of the consultation was to engage stakeholders in the newly created regions and CSOs. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the final stage of the program or the engagement is expected to commence in October 2020, and a report will be submitted to Parliament for consideration. And therefore, again, coming back to our issue, this is being looked into. So why should we vote for the NDC government?
No, that does not respond and answer my question. My question was quite direct. I say that looking at what President Akufo-Addo himself said, and he was clear. In his own words, regulating and legalizing the activities of the Okada business is nothing but a desperate and populist vote canvassing gimmick. He described this as a nuisance, the activities as a nuisance, and went further to say that the nuisance they cause on our roads must not be legalized by any right-thinking Ghanaian. It is therefore very surprising to know today that based on the position by the man who leads this government, we are learning that the transport minister, an appointee of the same man, is actually leading a conversation with stakeholders to perform an action that contradicts the position of the president and the government for that matter.
Mm-hmm. So like I said, the policy is now being looked through, and we are consulting with stakeholders on this issue.
Position on the legalization of Okada. You think it is commendable for any government to consider legalizing Okada?
So what we are saying now is that there needs to be better consultation, better information, more feedback from all stakeholders, and then the policy or Okada operation can be better streamlined. Now, the NDC are saying they would, well, they abolished the law in the first place. They made it illegal in the first place. And therefore,
I need to get this clear.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm saying that it should not be completely off the table, the consideration of legalizing Okada. Is that what the NPP thinks?
Well, the NPP is now looking into that. And we are designing a framework of how it could.
The NDC's idea is not entirely bogus.
No, but they made it illegal in 2012.
Let's talk about today, 2020.
Yes, so 2020, we are looking at how to better implement it. Now, mind you, the consultation started between March and November, and we're gathering information, we are consulting, and we are trying to streamline it in a very good way so that people will get to use Okada effectively and more safely. What did he say?
So this is a good policy.
No, what I'm saying again is that we are looking into how to better streamline it so that it will be very effective and it will serve the good people of Ghana.
Let me come to you, John. What do you make of this? The NDC, MPP, Okada debate, President Akufo-Addo rubbishes the entire idea of even legislating this. Weeks later, days later, Transport Minister comes up to say that they are in talks with stakeholders. And you just hearing from Kwaku saying that, well, this is not an entirely bad idea. They're looking at ways to streamline it, to make it better. Of course, we know what the NDC has said. It's going to legalize it. What do you make of this from where you sit?
Well, first of all, my view is there is nothing wrong with changing your mind. In fact, it's only a fool who doesn't change his mind. And so if you have a position on something and then after a while you discover that your position is not going to be beneficial to the people that you serve, then how better is it for you to change your mind? Especially as it has to do with the people of Ghana who stand to benefit from this thing. So if you find that something is going to work better for Ghanaians and your previous position is no longer helping, it's not going to help, why don't you?
So you think that is what has happened? You think government has changed its position? Is that what you think we are seeing?
So this is what has happened. Both parties have changed their minds on this thing. The NDC from 2012 has changed its mind on Okada. The MPP in perhaps, in fact, Nanako for this specifically in 24 hours has changed its mind. And so we can always debate the conditions and the incentives that caused this.
Well, we've not heard from the president himself. I don't know whether that remains the president's position. Anyway, that was his Transport Minister, but go ahead.
So like I said, we can always debate the circumstances surrounding the rapid changes in minds here. And what is going on is, things are heating up, the elections are coming up, both parties, frankly, are desperate because right now, we know that there is a lot of heat from both parties, foot soldiers going towards this election. And so for the NDC, who is in opposition, there's an incumbent government that was voted for by a majority of the people in the country. There is no doubt that right now, there might be some people who voted for the NPP 4 years ago who are thinking of changing their minds because some things might not have worked for them. And it is incumbent upon you to differentiate yourself in a way that people will see you as outstanding and as different from this party. And so the NDC is going after things that the NPP originally stood against.
Okay.
The NPP, on the other hand, is the incumbent party, knows that the way to neutralize the NDC's ability to differentiate itself is to go after the good things that the NDC is suggesting that is sticking, that the Ghanaian people are buying into. And so it is incumbent upon them to study the social media environment, the national environment, and see what are the things that they are standing against are sticking. If they're not, then go after the NDC, neutralize them, because you have the power now. Why wait till after elections to do these things?
Okay.
Do them now, and then make the NDC's promises irrelevant. And so it is all politics, but at the end of the day, this is what is important. Is the MPP's change of mind good for the people of Ghana? To me, yes, it is. Should they give credit to the NDC? We can always debate that. But the fact of the matter is that the NDC has invested resources in investigating what the people of Ghana want to see happen. They've discovered that Okada is good for the people of Ghana at this time. They decided to promise it. The MPP realizes that, oh, okay, it's true, the people of Ghana like it. Let us do it now, and they've done it. That is the debate we're having.
Okay.
And the fact of the matter is, it's going to happen over and over in many and many more other things. It's not just this policy.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, the people of Ghana need to, I couldn't hear you.
No, conclude. Yeah.
Okay, so the people of Ghana need to sit back and say, is there really a difference between these two parties? If there is a difference, what is it, and where do we need to vote for them? So I think the NDC wants to let the people of Ghana continue to be abreast of the fact that this party is buying into our ideas and they're implementing them.
Okay.
What the NDC needs to do, though, is that when these things happen, there are going to be problems, and they need to capitalize on some of these problems and say, hey, we came up with this idea, but this is how we're going to do it. This is how they did it, and this is why these problems are there. And I'm just saying this, but there's no doubt that the parties are going to copy each other all the way up to the election.
Okay, that's fine. Let me read a couple of messages coming through from our audience. Dr. Ambrose Amesha says that the PSNPP government is pleased with the double track system. The current government is not committed to bridging the existing infrastructure gap. He writes again that no free TVET has been rolled out by NPP. So that was on the earlier conversation on free SHS. Francis Chumesi Odum says, please, is the NPP guy listening to himself? So you don't seem to agree with his comments by Kwaku, that's Kwaku Owusu. And TVET has not been implemented, also by Francis. And Dr. Ambrose writes again that some few TVET schools captured under free SHS are benefiting. So, of course, it's always a very interesting part of the manifesto conversation this particular year, and the promises that the parties are making. And I find it quite intriguing how and the extent to which the issue about Okada has generated so much interest. And I don't know what you make of this, John. You think this is certainly a vote winner? We know that if any party talks about matters relating to education, the economy, and the basic bread and butter issues, certainly it will attract voters or votes if they're able to convince the people. You think the Okada policy is one of such that can really convince people, a large constituency if there is, to vote for the NDC?
So there are two steps of looking at this. First is that the Okada constituency is very small, and so in talking about the number of votes from that constituency, that is too marginal to make a difference, and partly because there are other people like taxi drivers, trotro drivers, who are looking at the legalization of Okada and who are wondering whether the government is adding more competitors to their business and whether they would like it. And so there's going to be both negatives and positives, which are likely to neutralize even the vote, the number of votes that are going to come in for the party that wins the debate on this. However, the upper level of this is who are you really going after? What are you really portraying when you actually prioritize policies that benefit even the most marginalized contributors to our economy, even the most I don't want to say the most ordinary man, because everybody's ordinary or everybody's extraordinary, but people whom we would not normally see in a manifesto, groups of people that we would not normally see in economic policy debates are being prioritized in the manifesto and given the kind of national attention that we would not normally see. And so that's the focus here would be, is the NDC a party of the ordinary man more than the NDC? Are they going after these obscure contributors to our economy and giving them the attention that they actually need? Because at the end of the day, it is not about, it's not going to be about MTN or Tigo or any of the corporations who are able to lobby their ways into the parliament and laws passed on their behalf. It's about the ordinary man who doesn't have access to the government or the parliamentarian who is actually being prioritized by the government.
Okay, thank you very much, John. Let me take the final word from Kwaku and also Conrad, and we wrap up on this. We wanted to touch on infrastructure development. We've run out of time, but certainly this will not be the last conversation we have on the manifestos moving forward. We will look subsequently at the feasibility of some of them specifically, and cost implications and all that. Also factoring in what will happen post the 2020 general election, looking at the existence of COVID still across the world and even in our own country, Ghana. Kwaku, your final comments, and then I'll come to Conrad.
What I'd like to say is that given the good track record record of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government in the last 4 years or 3 years and a couple of months, the good people of Ghana would vote for us come December 7th. And in January, our government will continue the implementation of the free SHS policy, which we introduced and implemented, and will do more for Ghanaians.
All right. Finally, Conrad.
Yeah, so I think what I want to say to the good people of Ghana is, look, the NDC has given you a people's manifesto. Out of that people's manifesto, we are pledging to scrap teacher licensing. We are pledging to pay 50% of university fees for students coming this academic year. We are pledging to scrap the job-destroying vehicle scrappage scheme. Now you see these three out of the main. We just talked about Okada. The NPP went to sleep and forgot about them. There's nothing like that in their manifesto. Suddenly they are saying, we will no longer go ahead with the vehicle scrappage scheme that is due to start on 1st November 2020. Oh, we were thinking about paying the school fees. Oh, we will scrap the teacher licensing exam. The NPP has gone to sleep on the wheel, and they are driving this car at 120 miles an hour towards the wall. Stop it. The People's Manifesto must be implemented. Vote John Dramani Mahama on 7th December 2020 so that the people's voice will be implemented, not the voice of a few champagne-sipping bourgeoisie sitting at the Flagstaff House.
All right, thank you very much. That was Conrad Dumbah. He's a chairman of the NDC branch in Milton Keynes here in the UK. You also heard from Kwaku Owusu. He's a communications team member of the NPP Luton chapter here in the United Kingdom, and also John Tanden, doctoral candidate at the School of Economics, Political and Policy Sciences at the University of Texas at Dallas in the United States. My name is Kwakye, Afreh-Nuamah, and grateful for joining us once again on From the Diaspora. We tackled some of the key themes so far as the manifestos of the two major political parties is concerned. Don't forget to like our Facebook page and also our Instagram page. Follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Grateful for your time once again, and do join us next week as we come your way with another edition of From the Diaspora. Thank you once again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.